Hello, welcome to the live stream. I don't know if the music or anything was working because Aaron had to fix it remotely. I restarted. Don't know what was up with the Roadcaster. And there was a possibility we weren't going to stream today because Aaron is out of town and in a meeting, and I was like not sure why it wasn't working. Fuzzbubble says, does the music keep dropping for everyone or just me? That is a great question. It probably has to do with the changes we made. Pretty much, Aaron changed my streaming setup kind of without me knowing that it was going to happen about 6 weeks ago, and we've never had like a totally fine stream since then. And I'm sure it's better. But I don't think it was a problem before. I can't really, I have in-house tech support that just makes the live streaming equipment work for me, so I really shouldn't complain. But I endeavor, when we move into the new house and we set up all of my live streaming equipment, I'm going to do a better job of understanding the components that go into it so that I can do more analysis myself. I'm obviously not going to be able to match Aaron. Aaron enjoys doing this. This like one of Aaron's favorite activities is like putting X, Y, Z together and like making them all work together. That is, I would not describe one of my favorite activities. I like it when things just work. So, David says, holiday's over and I'm back. What did I miss? Well, you were missed. You did miss me making challah. That I made like a apple cinnamon challah. It wasn't amazing. I did get the round braid done well, which is actually easier than a regular challah braid. So that part was nice. That's all you've missed. At some point we're going to move into the house. We're past the halfway point of Budgetober. And I was asking people what topics they wanted to do this week on the live stream. There is so much news right now, and it is really like overtaking my life at work. If you are following it, the National Guard is coming to Portland. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of court cases, and there has been a lot of protests, and it's been a lot. Anyway, I just don't want to talk about how federal policies are impacting finances right now. I know it is top of mind for a lot of people, especially if you're a federal employee or you are in some way affected by what is happening in the federal government, like you are a government contractor or any of these things, or if you rely on government payments and benefits that have been cut. I'm sorry. It is rough out there right now. And I was like, I want to talk about budgeting things that aren't specific to the whims of the news cycle and politics right now. And one of the things that people recommended was budgeting when your life is changing. So, I think a lot of the stuff that we talk about is establishing baselines and making predictions, but that can be so hard when you're going through life upheaval, like you're moving to a new city or a new country, you're getting divorced, you're moving in with someone for the first time, like where you just don't know what you don't know. Starting over from zero, like I've had a lot of friends that have moved internationally in the past couple years. And that is just one of those things where you're like, all of the methods that I had, all of the information that I had, it's valuable. Like there's no shame in having a system that works for you in one circumstance, and then your circumstance is changing and your systems don't work anymore. Like you learned a lot from what did and didn't work in how your life was. But how do you start working on a budget when you are going through big life transitions? Ma'am, are you okay? What? Did you guys hear that? Hi. Okay, well. Do you need some attention? Oh, I'm just a path. She's doing a lot right now. So I thought that I would talk about the, I think I would talk about like why, how you think about this, like strategies for how you shape around this. Ma'am, off the counter. I have to go take my cat off the counter. Someone is in top form this afternoon. Okay, there's a lot of chat here. That's always been my experience with tech people. They fix what's broken and break what's working. That's a great expression of what Aaron does. Aaron sometimes intentionally breaks things to fix them again in a new way. Can Aaron help me figure out my setup? I think he can for the low price of a super chat on the live stream. You might be able to convince him to do it for free. I thought you might have moved while I was away. Oh, no, we have not. We do have electricity, which I think happened maybe right before Rosh Hashanah. I think we got electricity on Rosh Hashanah, which I think is like ideal. Here's what I gotta say. Are you okay? She is playing with a cat toy that looks like a Game Boy controller that has recently become the cat's favorite toy. But she is... Ma'am, are you okay? Full crazy eyes. I wish I had a cat cam to show you. I could make a cat cam right now. Instead of us learning about any actual anything, we are just gonna talk about my cats. Can you all hear this? Because she's being crazy. Okay. I might be able to get you a cat cam here. Oh. Now I can't do it because I can't see the on-screen code, y'all. All right, we'll come back to it. She's going to stop being crazy by the time I actually get it set up. So, Michael says, I finally opened my wine app for realistically the first time this year, but only caught up till August. Haha. Oh, man, I hate when you, like, put it off. Is it feel good to have caught up, or are you like, I just want to throw this out and start again? Aaron and I have this, you know, I'm always like fairly up to date with my regular YNAB because I have been using YNAB since before the days where there was any auto import. So like, I'm pretty good. I like enter it right at the time that the transaction happens, except we have this like kind of bananas, maybe not the most efficient dual system because we have separate finances. And we each have our own YNAB budgets, but then for shared expenses, we enter them on a Todoist list, and then each of them enter as either an inflow or an outflow as a credit to the other's account in YNAB, which is just like a fictional account that we both each have for each other. And then we have to reconcile it. We had a while there where we were reconciling it really frequently, and now it's like, every time we do it, we think that it's only been like a month or two, and it's usually been like 5 months, and it can be a little miserable. It's never as bad reconciling it as it is in our head, but a few times I've been like, let's just assume the numbers are gonna match, and can I just pay you what I think I owe you? But the total is getting quite high right now of unreconciled, so we're due to do it. When I missed a few months, I just started a new budget. I can't imagine starting a new budget because I have so much historical data in there because I've been using it for like over 10 years. I don't know if I could do that. Yeah, Eric says that the cats have no discipline when dad's away. I think that cats don't have any discipline when dad's here either. So many weirdo cases where I wasn't sure I wanted to handle and changed it like 3 times. That's one of the things that's like, actually, that kind of segues back into our topic for today. But like, that ends up being one of the things that's the hardest about having to set up a new way that you're approaching your finances. One of the things that like can be helpful when you are dealing with a large amount of change in your life and you need to approach money differently is you need to look at what is working and hold on to that. So if you have been using YNAB and it has been working for you, but it's just that all your expenses have changed, that's a great example of like, then just shift to a new budget. Just, set it up from scratch and pretend like it's a new thing, but you already have that like muscle built in, right? But maybe like, let's say you've been using YNAB and you have shared finances and you go through a breakup or a divorce and you need to reestablish your finances under the new, new scenario. That is a great example of setting up a fresh budget, but your general overall rules stay consistent. Now, one of the other things that can happen is that you didn't have a system or your system will not work anymore. Like here's an easy example of when the system won't work. You move abroad and you've been using some sort of method for managing your money. Like, let's say you're using a multiple bank account, kind of very simple budget where you have 3 bank accounts, like 50% of your income goes in one for your essentials, 20% goes into one for savings, and the rest goes into another account. And that's what you kind of spend discretionary spending out of. So like that system might work extremely well if you're in the US where it's easy to change banks. There's a lot of banking institutions you can get free, free bank accounts at one institution. Then you move abroad and you move to a country where it's hard enough for you to set up a bank account. It's really tricky because you need to maintain money back in your home country as well as your new country. And you're never quite sure like how much money you need to keep in either country's currency. And it costs money to have a bank account, right? Which is like true of a lot of other countries. America has really lucked out on the like totally free bank account sort of situation. That's because they find other ways to get your money. The freely flowing credit is one of the ways that they make money, right? So one of the things that you can do is think about overarching rules that you want to apply and how you're going to treat transactions, and then do a check-in. So let's say you decide that you can't do that anymore because you can't have 3 bank accounts in your new country. And you need to maintain 2 currencies. And you're like, oh my God, that's not going to work at all anymore because I'm like, oh, how am I splitting it into essentials when some of my essentials are in one country and some of my essentials are in another? So you go, okay, well, what was working about the system? Well, what was working about that system was I like to check my bank account balance to see if I have money to spend. And so I was doing automatic savings and I was hiding it from myself. And so that worked really well because then it was in a separate account and I didn't go spending money that I had planned to save. What was the other things that was working about it? Well, I don't really like granular tracking. That was like not super great for me. What sort of part about that system worked for me? Then you can take those threads of the ways that the things that you liked about your old system that isn't going to work for your new life, your new situation, and try to implement it. So if you're like, I liked that I set my goals once and then everything was sort of like managed for me, then you can look through and kind of figure out what is another budgeting system that I can use that has sort of those benefits. So one of those options might be you research in your new country savings accounts that are, an automatic transaction savings account. Maybe one of the other things you look into is what if, because I can't figure out how much to keep in each currency, what if what I do is now my savings is all in my, like original country of origin currency, and I keep it there. And that means that I'm always doing some savings, but it also means I have some of that money to access if I need to transfer it back and forth and over, but it's out of sight, out of mind. So you're able to keep that out of sight, out of mind bit for your savings account. You're able to maintain the two currencies, which you might need for things like larger expenses or for taxes, but for sending to family back home. But it means that it's a little bit out of sight, out of mind. Obviously, that might not work for everyone. Like, let's say you move from a country that has a really unstable currency and everybody wants US dollars back home. And that doesn't make any sense for you and your life situation now. And you're from a country that has like really unstable currency like Zimbabwe or something like that. One of your options is to kind of assess different kind of levels of what is important to you. Is what is most important to you low effort? Is that what worked really well for your system? Or is what worked very well for your old system that being able to check that bank account balance and knowing that? Because you might be able to set up a system where instead of checking the bank account balance, you are checking an app that shows you how much is left to spend, right? Like you might be able to hook up to an app that kind of does a lot of those calculations for you. This is like very much talking about like the nitty gritty, but I think one of the worst situations that you can run into, especially when you're like catching up on YNAB is a great example where you're like, oh, I have this way that I treat things and I've been inconsistent in how I've been applying it. So for me, one of these examples has been I suddenly have like a ton more expenses in the home decor furniture category. And because it was so random and so infrequent before, I had like some of those categories were like I was saving for wallpaper and I was saving for a chandelier in my Wish Farm like overarching category. But then I had just like home decor and then I have household goods, which is like if I buy a cleaning appliance, is that a household good? But it's like so much more than the like average household goods, which is like $10 a month. But if I'm getting one $100 appliance, is that like adding up over the course of the year? And this is one of the problems that I've had is like, I actually accidentally, because I've been using YNAB for so long, have like 3 or 4 categories that are all kind of like variations on home decor / furniture. And I was also putting money into them like randomly because I knew I needed to start setting money aside for all of the expenses involved in moving. But this is so different than any other time I've moved because every other time I've moved, I've been moving from like rental to rental or from like a co-op to a different co-op. And now since we're building a house from the ground up, there's just like a lot of other random like outlet covers was not a thing that I like had to think to budget for before. And I'm like, is that furniture? Is that decor? It's not really either of those things. So one of the things you can do is accept the different ways that you've been approaching things in the past and then just make a new rule going forward. And I think this can be really helpful because I see a lot of people get overwhelmed with the historical data needs to be perfect, or I'll never really know how much I need for XYZ thing if I don't like fix this way that I'm approaching these transactions in the past. But if you can get it zeroed out, and even if that's zeroed out by like in YNAB, it would be called doing like a fresh start or whatever, where you're just like, screw it, whatever. The money that I've spent in the past is gone, right? Let's make a new plan for it. Then the help of doing that is that you unburden yourself from the overwhelm that becomes setting this up, because setting up like new systems when you have a lot of life change, money is one of those things where I think it's so important when you're dealing with a bunch of life changes. Even if you are not someone who is terribly hands-on with your money, you have to get a little bit more hands-on with your money at that moment in time. And that doesn't mean that it necessarily has to be guilt or restrictive. It just means that you need to get a good idea of your baseline in a new normal. And money is so it's so critical to how you design your lifestyle, how you think about how you interact with the world, that having good systems for money can set you up for whatever your new chapter is to be better off. If you are kind of very haphazard with the way that you approach money at that moment of transition, and you don't find a stabilization very quickly, you're going to end up continuing that pattern into the future. Like if you move to a new country and like things are very expensive, but you also never really understand what's going on because you're paying like a bunch of visa fees and you're getting settled in and you don't understand the way they rent apartments there in that new country. And it's very confusing and you're throwing money at problems to make them go away because moving internationally is really stressful. If you don't sit down and have a good concept of like how money is going out the door within, I would say, the first 3 to 6 months of like a new life transition and set up those systems, you are never, I don't want to say never. It is going to become much harder to establish good financial patterns if you associate this environment, this lifestyle, if you associate all of that with just sort of a haphazard approach to money, it makes it a lot harder to cultivate the life that you're choosing. Because remember, in the end, money is an exchange of value. And if you're trying to create a life that is full of value for yourself, that is surrounding yourself with things that bring you joy, that bring you fulfillment, that has the ease that you strive for, or has the discipline that you strive for, if you don't think about your money as a tool to reach that goal in that transitional period, you'll end up setting patterns that will continue forever. And I feel like this is making me sound like I'm like lecturing people like money is the most important thing in these life transitions. I am not trying to say that. I am saying that it is one of the pillars of how you have access to certain things in life, that you have ability to shape your mental health and your physical environment. A lot of that comes back to money for people. And if you get it set right, I also find that that ends up extending to a bunch of other things. Because if you're at that stage where you're really like reimagining, maybe you just like recently graduated and you're getting your first big kid job and you don't know what any of this is going to cost, right? Like you've been living maybe in dorms or with your parents for years and you just don't have like a good concept of like, what are the random expenses that are going to pop up in life? Or like what is reasonable? If you have a good handle on what you want to prioritize in your life, it means that you're not going to be kind of peer pressured into using your money in a way that doesn't kind of align with those values. So coming up with a system that, like, a great example would be like, you're looking for an apartment and you have said that like making sure that you find time to work out despite having young kids or having a full-time job is really important to you. Or you say like, yeah, in the end, I just want to spend less time in my car. I don't want a long commute. If you have a good handle on what those like core values are, it can shape where you access housing. Maybe you make the trade-off of, I don't have a in-unit laundry, but I'm able to live in a building that has a gym, or because then, I will go to the gym if I know that it's in there. You're like, I am in a season of my life where all I am doing is working right now. And it's like, I just don't want to be totally drained when I get home from work. And so I need to make sure that I don't have a long commute, because the long commute takes it out of me more than anything else. Maybe you spend a bit more money to be located close to your house, but you're offsetting that by spending less money on gas or spending less money on transit passes, or just getting back more hours of your life so that you can go and spend that on things that bring you joy. I think that like a lot of people get stuck in this perfectionism trap when they first start budgeting. And that doesn't necessarily mean like first time in your life, but like when you go through these huge life transitions, they tend to be some of the most stressful things in your life. And often these huge life transitions involve moving, which is like top one of the most stressful things, or divorce, which is like one of the most stressful things that you can go through, or loss of your partner or spouse. All of these are situations where if you don't, if you get caught up in the trap of, I have to have all of my budget and the way that I'm doing it worked out perfectly and it has to be perfect, then it's going to add stress to your life instead of take it away. The goal is to get to the point where you can confidently say like, yes, I can afford this, or I know that this is a stretch for my budget right now, but right now I'm prioritizing my fitness, my health, my proximity to my kids' school, my ability to pay for my kids' soccer camp above my ability to pay for XYZ other thing that I could if I have that trade-off, right? It makes it easier to make those compromises and trade-offs in life that we all have to do. Like, we all have a budget constraint. And there are things that we can't do because our time and our money are limited resources. But if you approach things with that curiosity instead of that perfectionism, then often what ends up happening is it makes it easier to accept the trade-offs that you're making, right? It makes it easier to be like, yes, I know that my apartment is not the fanciest apartment, but it's a little cheaper, and that is allowing me to save more, or it's allowing me to put more towards vacations, or, I don't go out for drinks after work with people because I instead am spending more money on my apartment because this is the first time I've actually had my own place that I'm not sharing with a spouse or something. And for me, having a home that is like cozy and that I can hang out in and that is just totally decorated and, conforms to my taste and my cleanliness standards is more important to me right now than going and getting happy hour drinks every Friday or whatever with my coworkers. Like, once you get a good idea of where your values are impacting your financial choices, it makes it so much easier to accept where the trade-offs are. And one of the other things it can do is it can clarify for you. So like, if you've been a stay-at-home parent, and you're now getting a divorce and you're going to have to get to the point where you are financially supporting yourself after some, amount of spousal transition. One of the things that it can like help you wrap your head around if you really stick your head into the finances is it can make it a lot clearer to you that like for the lifestyle that I value and that I want to live. And it doesn't necessarily mean the same lifestyle as you were living before, but it means like what the core kind of things that I value, I need to be making XYZ per month. So like a great example is if you've never actually like researched what it would cost to live in different neighborhoods and in different styles of housing, like a house with a yard, because maybe you have a dog or you have, it's really important to you so that your kids can play in your own yard. If you haven't researched that, but you're now in the position where you are going to have a good understanding, sometimes that diving in with that like curiosity instead of that perfectionism can give you really good data because it can show you what the trade-offs are. So this is, I think, especially helpful for people going through divorces. So if you've got like 3 to 6 months, if it's like a relatively uncontested divorce versus like 1 to 3 years, if it's a very contested divorce, you've got a little bit of time to do that information gathering that can help inform the like, hey, to keep the lifestyle that I want for my kids and myself, I need to be making $85,000 a year because it's really important to me that they stay in their school. And so I need to live in this neighborhood and I will not be able to afford housing unless I'm making $85,000 a year. Or, if I'm moving back to my home country, I haven't lived there in XYZ number of years. What is it going to cost for me to get access to health insurance or whatever it might be? Having that information and doing that research gives you a much better idea to go into how you structure the parts of your life that are changing, right? I was trying to find a service that can download all my PDF statements automatically to a file store. I do think that is possible. Syncing my accounts did remind me that my credit union oddly credited me $50K one day and didn't correct it for a week. I caught ACH fraud from keeping my YNAB up to date. The YNAB that is like less up to date for me is my business YNAB. I don't do it as frequently. And yes, I use YNAB for my business. It's fine. It works out fine. I used to use like kind of more traditional accounting software, but I already pay for YNAB and it works fine for my size business. I know it's a little bizarre. And I just keep inventory in a spreadsheet because I have to do inventory for taxes. Anyway, I found ACH fraud on my account, and the irony was that then that broke my YNAB connection because I had to like go get a new ACH number and I had to update it with all of the places that send me ACH deposits for my business, which is crazy. It was like every single country's Amazon service because I get like separate payments from like Amazon Canada, Amazon Mexico, Amazon EU, Amazon UK, Amazon.com. All of them have separate accounts for if you're a merchant or a publisher. And I had to go through and set them all. And it was, oh my God, it was out of control. Reclassifying it always seems like a hazard, but I like the idea of adding rules going forward. Don't keep rearranging the old info. I absolutely understand the temptation to rearrange old info, but especially if you're going through like this, like a transitional period in your life, or you're trying to do a new normal, you have to remember that the previous data only gives you so much value, right? And one of the things is if you find yourself like constantly procrastinating on updating your budget or checking in with your accounts, maybe you need a different system. And maybe just because that system worked for you before, it might not work anymore. Maybe things have changed a lot in your life and you no longer get joy out of sitting down and, you know, granularly transacting stuff. Or maybe you do everything on your phone now and like using a desktop app is just like, ugh, it's so annoying to pull it out. Right now I'm prioritizing the print farm I seem to be building for no good reason. Well, I mean, it sounds like you're prioritizing it financially, but do you want to be prioritizing it? I was going to say, David, can't you just like build a shell script? But then I realized that you probably can't because it's all like, financial data. So it's a lot harder to just scrape it all. Hi. How is everyone doing? Okay, I have been talking for way too long. We have 2 donuts and I haven't even introduced them. And I feel like we're probably due for some donut intro. Does anybody have any questions about budgeting for life changes? I feel like I've been talking very philosophical, but if anybody has, hello, hi, ma'am. Hi. Have you calmed down a little bit? You gonna say hi? Yes. You can sit on me. Okay. We have to look at the donut, Machka, but I can't do that if I'm holding you. You gonna get me covered in cat hair? Yes. Do you feel ignored? Do you feel ignored because I'm talking to a camera and I'm not paying attention to you? Okay. Should we look at the donuts? Let's do it. Donut. Okay. My overhead camera is off. Let's see if I can get it back on. There we go. All right. So this is one of the donuts. It is a pear chai fritter. And I now am realizing maybe I have already had it. I don't think I have, but let's double check. I already did have it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. So let's find out how it is. And then I have a second one. And it is a black sesame. So it has a black tahini glaze and then roasted black sesame seeds. I think I'm going to go for the black sesame first. Let's see what it's like. The tahini is dyeing the desk, if you can see. Oh, this is going to make my face covered in black. It's good. Oh, there's one of my hairs on it. That's not from the donut shop. That's from me. I don't love, it's like a little cold, which is strange because it's like 67 in Portland today. It's a very confusing temperature. It was like 46 this morning with a dense fog advisory, and then it's 67 this afternoon. It's so much black sesame. Tahini is so thick that it's sort of just an overwhelming tahini taste. It's not bad. It's just sort of, I feel like I'd like it better warm, but if it was warm, the tahini would melt. The flavor is amazing. The texture, I don't want this on a normal raised donut, I think. I think I want this on an old-fashioned. I think they should make a black sesame old-fashioned. Does black sesame taste different from white ones? No, it's pretty much the same. It's good. If you like black sesame flavor, you'll really like it. But I don't know if like the donutness of it is the best. I would give it a 3.5 out of 5, I think. It's like, it's better than your average donut. But I don't know if it's like my favorite donut that I have ever eaten. Well, I know it's not, after what I'll say. All right. We do have to get these. I was having technical issues before I started. So I need to put the donut log in here because we were trying to fix the stream, and also I had a cat screaming at me the whole time. This is totally unrelated to anything to do with finances. Well, a little bit it is related to the joy that money can bring you in your life, but I did skating lifts and a death spiral today for the first time in 20 years. One of the skaters who started coming to the Wednesday kind of screw around class with me, who's like 10 years younger than me, but he is a former pairs competitor and pairs coach. And I kind of went back and forth. We were doing some stuff like on the ice, just kind of, doing some fun skills, but not pairs specific skills, but skating together during class. And I was like, you know what? I want to see if I could still do any of this. So I did a lesson with him today, and I had so much fun. I do not have all the muscle memory for all that, y'all, but it's still somewhat there. But I had such joy and fun with it, and I was laughing like hysterically the whole time that I will I have a standing weekly lesson with him now. So I that is going to be costing me money, and it's in the budget. I actually have been budgeting for skating coaching for like years, but I only do like 2 to 3 privates a year. It's quite bad. And figure skating, the way it works is it's pretty much like once you're at a certain level, you're doing privates. Anyway, I was like, screw it. I don't care. I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna use this money I've been saving up in my coaching category for this. It's financially, it's not a great decision. I spend so much money on fitness already, and then a lot more money on skating than is strictly reasonable, but it is something I can afford. So I'm doing it for at least a little while. It's very stressful at work right now. So you know what? Let's have a little joy in our lives. All right. Should we see if the roasted pear chai is, by the way, I had that last week and I already forgot about it. I think that's kind of phenomenal. Should we see if it's as good as it was last week? Last week I gave it 4 out of 5. All right, here's the roasted pear chai fritter, and last week I gave it a 4 out of 5. Let's see if it's still a 4 out of 5. I will not be eating this whole thing because there is no donut taxes this week because Aaron's out of town. It's okay, I'll have a little snacky snack tomorrow. I might be able to work from home tomorrow, and whenever I work from home, I end up snacking like way more than I do at the office. It's very good. I would say it's still a 4 out of 5. Hi, ma'am. Hello, princess. She's back to being crazy. She's giving me a football stance and look. Oh, she stole a bobby pin and is batting it around the floor. I don't know where it came from. Her sister must be ignoring her. And that's why she's going crazy, is that because normally they'd be chasing each other. But I guess Kugel was like, I'm done with this. I'm going to have to play stick time with her. I think this is also a 4 out of 5. It's the same rating as last week. Michael, I'm not familiar with Mercury. Are they a neobank? Oh, they're business banking. That's pretty cool. I use a credit union for my business banking, and it is very frustrating how bad the credit union interface is. They also merged with another credit union. I mean, the whole thing changed. I had trouble getting into my account for a while. It was very annoying. Okay, that is too much sugar for me. The pear fritter, still 4 out of 5. I can't eat any more sugar. Y'all, what else do we want to talk about when it comes to budgeting for new life? I can kind of walk you through what I'm trying to do, because we have a combination of kind of 2 problems, which is we're going to have all of these like different expenses when we move into the new house. I'm motioning because the new house is over there. We're going to have all these like different expenses when we move into the new house, but at the same time, We also need to come up with like different systems for the way that we split expenses, because Aaron and I are legally married, but we're financially separate, but then we like share expenses through this like complicated method that I was describing earlier. And what's been happening the whole time that we've been living in here is that Aaron is the on paper owner of this and that. And because of that, I've been just paying Aaron rent, and then the construction loan for that is being paid by Aaron, because we don't have any tenants right now. Once we have tenants, all of us, the tenants and ourselves, are going to pay rent to the business that owns the house, which is owned by Aaron. So, but we haven't figured out what that rate is. I don't want to charge myself like full market rent on that unit because that seems a little outrageous. But I also don't want to charge myself so below market rent that it's like unfair relative to the tenants that we have. Obviously, we're going to charge like both what the market can bear and what feels like reasonable. We're not going to like price gouge people on the rent because that's not a good way to be a property owner. But we don't really know what that's going to end up like parsing out to be. So what I'm paying Aaron right now is like half of what the market rent on this much smaller unit would be. And that has enabled me to, because we share it, that has enabled me to really put aside more and save more. But we're also paying all of the utilities on all 3 units, and we have been for like 2 years. And we're just splitting those in half, but we're also paying all the utilities on this 4th unit as well that we live in, which some of those are actually going to go down when the tenants are in, because we're not going to be paying for their electricity. And we right now have garbage as mandated for 4 units, but that is the same amount of garbage service that is mandated when we have tenants move in. So that expense is going to go down a lot. But electricity keeps going up. Anyway, we have to come up with something that feels fair, which doesn't mean it's going to be split in half. Aaron owns the property on paper. Theoretically, I have rights to it. And Aaron makes significantly more than I do. I make enough to pay market rent in this area, but I don't pay market enough to pay market rent on 4 different units. So, what utilities? I thought the power is off. The power has been on the whole time. It was a temporary power pole. So, we had water, we had, electricity. It just was a lower voltage electricity because it was coming off of a temporary power pole. We are now hooked up to, and then we had to pay for garbage. We don't have any gas. There's no gas. We cut the gas line before we started construction, so there's no gas. The water used to be cheap in Portland, but it has been going up. The water has all of these base rates, these setup rates. So we are likely to end up, and it's based on it being a multifamily. So actually it's going to get cheaper, I believe, when people move in. That's sort of one of the problems with a lot of these like commercial buildings, is that you have this like base fee that is reasonable when you spread it out over the number of units, but when it's only being paid by 1 unit, it's like kind of astronomical. How much could be used? A lot. Remember, no one is living there, but it's an active construction site. So it's being used for power tools. It's being used to run all the appliances that are plugged in. Like, we've had appliances for like almost a year now. We have, so there's plenty. There's automatic lights. There's security systems. Obviously the amount of electricity will go up when it is being heated and cooled. And the amount will go up now that the hot tub is up. So the hot tub is up and functional now. And that does, I think I calculated it out, and it's going to add about $30 a month to our electricity bill, which is kind of a bummer, but it is amazing. So, um, but yeah, we're paying the setup fees for like a commercial building too. Um, how about you print up all the bills, throw them up the air, and whichever lands face up, and you pay face down? Well, the big bill is the mortgage, so that's really. I also feel like maybe that's not the best system. We'll keep splitting our utilities down the middle because that seems just reasonable. I think any other kind of split of the utilities. I know a lot of people that do it where like one person pays the mortgage and the other pays the utilities, but they don't usually also own rental properties that they live there. So, yeah, we've been trying to figure it out. Oh, UI UX for web and mobile is great. I have had USAA for the longest time, and that's my main bank. And their user interface is amazing. And they have always been at the leading edge of technology since the 90s. They actually invented the mobile deposit technology, and I used to use it back when I actually scanned my checks in on a regular scanner for mobile deposit. But USAA is great. However, there are some things they aren't amazing at, and so I have a couple other banks. Bank of America's website, though, is like astonishingly bad. I don't understand how Bank of America's can be so much worse. Like, compared to all of my other credit card companies, like Chase's is fine. Sometimes I'm a little annoyed about certain choices that they make when I'm like reconciling, but it's quite easy to use. Amex could be worse, could be better. I only have a business card with Amex, I think, now. And so their business portal, I think, is very different. But oh man, Bank of America looks like it was designed in 1992 and never changed. Which is also how most of the co-op banks feel. I also have Chime and CIT Bank. CIT Bank, don't love their interface, but I just use them for high yield savings. Chime, I think, is phenomenal. They also have a credit builder debit card. So I end up offering them as an option when I teach young adults about finance. It has like emojis, has like auto savings features. So I think it's a really good option for people that are like for a first bank account for especially digital natives. BOA has 5,000 words of disclosure that appear on every page. Chase and BOA always feel like the inherited junk from all the little banks they hoovered up and never got rid of. I don't have a lot of problems with Chase. Hello. Hi, ma'am. I do currently have a bank account at Chase because I did a bank account bonus. It was like a $900 bonus a while ago, so I moved a bunch of money in there. I should probably close those bank accounts now. I've been holding on to them because you need to hold on to them long enough where they don't like yank back the amount. And I have all like the auto transactions set up so that I can keep it from charging me. They're not going to charge me as long as I do like auto savings in it and stuff. All right, y'all. I need to go to my next meeting soon. The live stream will likely not be at the Tuesday night time next week. I have a live event I am doing in Portland about highways that evening, and the event starts at 6:30, so I feel like I'd be cutting it quite close to do this at 4:30. I might end up just skipping the Tuesday live stream and doing a Halloween night live stream, which would be that Friday. It'll probably be at the same time, like 4:30 to 5:45, 6. I was thinking about maybe doing a trick-or-treat live stream, like while I'm in we'll just hang out and wait for trick-or-treaters to hopefully come. And hopefully Erin will come and do the live stream as well. I will let you know if you are not a Patreon. You do not have to, you can join at the free membership tier, and that I will make sure to let you know. I mean, you can also join at the paid membership tier. I would appreciate it. It supports all of the work that we do in the community and pays for our hosting. But I will make sure to communicate it. I will also try to post it on the community tab. I really have not figured out my schedule for next week yet, so we will find out. I also might move next week. I don't know. I don't want to say that too loud because it's definitely not going to happen now. Highways, I hope anti. Well, it's actually about the complexity of what we do with highways. So yeah, I think it's going to be really good. It is a event that I'm doing with the Big Dig, which is a podcast from WGBH in Boston. Did a fantastic podcast, Ian Cass, and he is coming to town. We are hosting an event talking about what to do with this big highway that we have in the center of Portland, but we're also doing a little history. Portland was the first urban freeway that was removed. We had this thing called Harbor Drive that we ripped up and we turned into a biking and walking path in the 70s in Portland. And we also stopped a highway construction project in Portland after it had already gotten started, which was called the Mount Hood Freeway. And there is a lot of very interesting things. There's also a lot of the things that a lot of other cities have seen, which racist policies, displacement. The big highway that goes through town went through the historically Black neighborhood in town. And for urban renewal, they knocked down a ton of people that had been there for generations and essentially moved them out to build a highway and pollute the existing majority Black neighborhood. So we are going to be talking about all of that complexity. One of the things is that one of the groups that really supports, finding a solution in the historically Black neighborhood where there is this highway is capping the highway, because a lot of people really want to expand this I-5 corridor, partially because the one of the biggest bottlenecks on the West Coast for truckers is the bridge on I-5 that goes between Portland and Vancouver, Washington. It's called the I-5 bridge. And they've been trying to replace it for 20 years. And they haven't had a lot of success. There's been a lot of support of this idea of widening it with this massive highway, but then that just causes induced demand. One of the groups that is full of people that were displaced from the Albina neighborhood for the original I-5 project and their descendants really wants to cap I-5 if they are doing a highway expansion. But this is all kind of stuck in this back and forth right now, which is nobody knows if anybody's going to get any money from the federal government anymore anyway. So the chance of Oregon Department of Transportation doing the stuff that they've already said they're going to do with expanding it. One of our panelists is with No More Freeways, which is a activism group here that is really fighting back on the idea of expansion. Everyone agrees that there's a better solution in this area. So the Big Dig is long done. Yes, the podcast is all about the 30, 40-year work on that project. It's a really good historical podcast of all the ins and outs and changes that project went through. But yes, cap a highway. So that's what the Big Dig did in Boston. It's what they're doing now in Seattle. To cap a highway means that you cover the highway, you put it in a tunnel, and you have things built on top of it. So you have neighborhoods that can be returned instead of having this giant gulf that's in the middle of a neighborhood. It means that usually you have better traffic inputs and outputs. You also provide more land for livability, and it can transform corridors that often had a highway put through them, which tend to be the low income and working class neighborhoods that got knocked down in the first place for highway expansion in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So capping a highway, the downside is they are massive construction projects. They cost a ton of money. They go massively over budget. The Big Dig was a great example of that. And you've got to get a lot of constituents on board in order to do it. There's downsides too, right? the amount of political capital it takes to do something like a highway capping project can really be phenomenally hard. Hope springs eternal. October will be the certificate of occupancy and move. I don't think we're at certificate of occupancy yet, but I think the number of things that we have left before we're like at certificate of occupancy are like countable on fingers and toes. I think we're at that point, depending on like your definition. But yes. Emily, it's great to see you here, by the way. Did you decide, was that enough of a review for you to get the Black Sesame, or did you decide no Black Sesame based on my review? We haven't seen you on a live stream in ages. The Big Dig was, I mean, all highway projects are expensive. So there's that. There we go. The new Roadcaster that we're on, I can only have one overlay up at a time, and I keep forgetting to turn back on the overlay I want after I do the donut thing. All right, y'all, I gotta run to my union meeting soon, so please tell me what you're looking forward to this week. What am I looking forward to this week? What am I looking forward to this week? I am looking forward to... I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to finishing my Halloween costume. I always enjoy when it's done, but I actually have not wanted to sit down and sew. So what am I looking forward to? Oh, I know what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the breaking out of all of my Halloween clothes over the next week. I've already started. Unfortunately, we're still not moved. And like 5 months ago, I moved all of my October clothes into like storage out of here and like out of that wardrobe right there, because I was like, oh, surely we'll be moved in by October. Anyway, I kept being like, why can't I find my Halloween clothes? And yes, I know it is ridiculous that I have multiple Halloween themed outfits, but I finally realized that I had moved them all out, and I went and got them back. So anyway, I'm looking forward to deploying them all bit by bit. I recently watched an hour-long deep dive on toll roads, and it was fascinating. Yes, I highly recommend the book Privatization of Everything. It came out early last year, I believe. Privatization of Everything, totally recommend it. It's not just about toll roads, but it really talks about that sort of push to of public-private partnerships and the kind of I feel like it's a cliche to say it, but the late stage capitalism. It's really good. It talks a lot about toll roads in Indiana, for example, which is one of the like kind of big classic examples. I totally recommend it. And I also have a YouTuber to recommend for everyone who did a great, she did a great piece on it. Dacia Does It. I will drop it in the chat here. I loved her stuff. I just found her channel fairly recently, but she does roller skating and politics essentially. And, but her politics videos are like deep thinks. And they're also about like joy and resistance. And I love her style. I think she's an exceptional creator. And she did a whole deep dive on toll roads and privatization that I thought was really good. So Dacia Does It. Yeah, check her out. I put the link down in the chat. And if I remember, I'll try to drop it in the edit so that the replay crew can find it. All right, what are people looking forward to this week? No one's going to tell me what they're looking forward to? We all just want to talk about toll roads? Eric, are you number one? These rankings are crazy. I don't like the rankings, I have to tell you. Winter asked, any suggestions on budgeting when moving to a foreign country or while selling your house? I think I covered that pretty well I don't know if you were here at the beginning of the stream, but I talked about that like quite a lot. But if you have specific questions, let me know. I look forward to sleeping in past 5:30 a.m. tomorrow because I have Wednesdays off. Nothing sweeter than that. I do not have to get up at the butt crack of dawn. Oh, Sophie's having a pumpkin carving party on Saturday. That sounds amazing. We did not get it together to do the pumpkin carving this year. So either I will need to do it on the stream next week or we're not doing it this year. I think those are the only two options. Maybe I'll do the stream on Monday next week and we will carve a pumpkin together. That's possible. Like I said, become a Patreon and we'll figure it out together. I'll let you know. I'm sorry I don't have it more worked out. I also was supposed to do like bargaining during the day, but it's also my day off and I have an event at that night and I'm just very overwhelmed trying to figure out. And I don't know if you heard, but the National Guard is coming to Portland. So there's just a lot of unknowns going on right now. Fuzzbubble says, enjoying the slight chill in the air. I love how like half the people last week were excited about flannels and sweaters. It is not a slight chill here, really, except in the mornings right now. It's like unseasonable for October. It's very strange. There was an epic rainstorm this week, though, and I was so happy that I heard that rainstorm as I was falling asleep, and I was like, I'm gonna have to bike in that at 4:30 in the morning. And I was just laying in bed thinking, stressed out about it. And then I lucked out. The rain stopped, and I was like leaving the house at 4:30, totally dark, and I checked my weather, and it said rain stops for rain starting again in 33 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, it takes me 32 minutes to bike to work usually. And I made it like 4 minutes from work before it started raining. And it was just a light rain instead of like the torrential downpour that it was. It was amazing. That's actually even more satisfying than it being totally clear when it's like downpouring, but then you just happen to time it well. Cause like sometimes you can plan around it where you'll be like at a bar and it'll be like the rain is stopping in half an hour. And you're like, okay, I'll get one more drink and then I'll leave. But that's very different than like you have to leave your house at a set time and it just happens to not be raining only for that 35 minutes. Man, that was great. Eric says, I got some pants altered, picking them up this week. Ooh, that's exciting. Way to show us all up with actually doing the mending that you said you were going to do. It's been unseasonably warm here and dry too. We are in drought. Actually, we have like a crazy amount of snow now up in the mountains because of all the rain we've been getting, but now it's like back to being dry. I don't know. It's weird. Michael says, I'm looking forward to not flying for once. I am also looking forward to you not flying for once. That sounds great. It is nice to be put in one place. Are you going to do anything when you're staying in one place? Fuzzbubble's looking forward to reading some good books. Also very like the chill in the air, the reading books. It's a very cozy autumn sort of situation. 9th annual pumpkin carving party. Man, you're serious about this. I like that. I love that. We've been getting better at it. I hope that we stored the pumpkin carving tools somewhere because we got a bunch of pumpkin carving tools. All right, y'all. I do need to run to my next meeting. I hope you enjoy your slight chill in the air, your pumpkin carving parties, your not flying, your reading of good books, you're cleaning your garages, your new, better fitting pants. I hope you all enjoy them as much as you can. It has been lovely to have some time here with you today. Until next time, stay safe, stay hydrated, pet a cat if you have one available, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.